Hi guys, so today we're going to be completing the Accentuate the Negative Investigation 2.3, adding and subtracting rational numbers. So let's zoom in to number 1. In class, we have always said the first steps are stating if it follows the subtraction rules or the addition rules. Since this is a subtraction, we are going to look at the following rules. First thing I want to notice is if this is a small minus big problem. Negative 2.5 is further away from 0, so that does make it a smaller number than negative 3/4. I'm going to write to the side small minus big. We know that this will give us a negative answer. So I'm going to add a negative right next to the end of my problem, just so I can go ahead and get it out of the way. Now I'm going to focus on if it has the same signs. I do what the sign says. That is this case. Negative 2.5 is the same sign as negative 3/4. Because they are the same sign, so same sign, I do what the sign says. So I am going to subtract in this problem. Now, because 2.5 is a mixed number, I am going to turn it into an improper fraction. I do that by multiplying the denominator, 2, times the whole number, 2. I get 4. Now I'm going to add in the numerator. 4 plus 1 is 5. So negative 2.5 becomes negative 5/2. Because I already put the negative in my answer, I'm going to completely ignore the signs and just worry about my subtraction now. So here is my 5/2. Because it's same sign, I'm going to do what the sign says. Put a subtraction sign. 3/4, I don't need to change anything about 3/4. Now, when you're adding or subtracting fractions, you do have to have a common denominator. So I need to know a number that 2 and 4 share. So a multiple of 2 and 4 that they both share are 4. I can turn a 2 into a 4 by multiplying by 2. Because I multiplied the denominator by 2, I have to multiply the top by 2. 5/2 now turns into 10/4. Because 3/4 needed nothing changed about it, I'm just going to simply bring it down. 10/4 minus 3/4 gives me 7/4. I can put this up into my answer, so my answer would be negative 7/4. If it asked me to put it back into a mixed number, I would see how many groups of 4 can fit in 7. I know one whole group of 4 can fit in 7. So I should put a -1 because my answer is still negative, even though I'm changing how it's presented. One whole group of 4 fits in 7, and I know that 3 is left over. So my numerator is 3, and my denominator is 4. These would be 2 complete final answers. So here's the whole problem, and then we will move on to problem 2. Okay, problem 2. First step, I need to recognize if this is a big minus small or small minus big. I have positive 4/7 minus negative 1/2. I know that positives are always bigger than negatives, so this is a big minus small problem. Because this is a big minus small problem, I know that I will have a positive answer. So I will go ahead and put my equal sign, and I'm going to put a plus to show I should have a positive answer. Next thing I need to recognize is, are these same signs or are they different signs? This is a positive 4 over 7 and a negative 1/2. They are different signs. Because they are different signs, I am going to do the opposite of the operation in the middle. Because I am subtracting, I am going to add these two fractions together. 4 over 7 and 1/2, neither of them are mixed numbers, so I can bring them down into my problem. Here is my plus sign, because remember, different signs means I do the opposite sign in the middle. Here are some fractions. I need common denominators. That means I need the same bottom number. I need to think of a multiple that 2 and 7 both share. I know that 14 is a common multiple of the two denominators. I can turn 7 into 14 by multiplying by 2. And I can turn this 2 into 14 by multiplying by 7. Because I multiplied the denominator by each number, I also need to multiply the top. Now I can simplify. 4 over 7 becomes 8 over 14. 1/2 turns into 7 over 14. I know that 8 plus 7 gives me 15, and the denominator stays the same. So my answer is positive 15 over 14. Because this is an improper fraction, I can turn it into a mixed number. I do this by recognizing that 14 can fit into 15 one whole time. And I can take away one group of 14 from 15, and I am left with 1 left over. So my mixed number would be 1 and 1/14. Number 3. Because this is a subtraction problem, I need to do the first steps in recognizing, is this a big minus small or small minus big? 4 and 1/3 is smaller than 8, so this is a small minus big problem. Because I know small minus big gives me a negative answer, I'm going to put equals negative. That way, I do not forget to put the sign in my final answer. Next thing I need to recognize is 4 and 1/3 and 8. They are the same sign. That means I am going to do the sign in the middle. So I am going to subtract. So same sign. I do what the sign says. Like all normal subtraction problems, I need to put the bigger number in front or on top. 8 is the bigger number. 4 and 1/3 is a mixed number. I need to turn this into an improper fraction. I do that by multiplying the denominator, 3, times 4, the whole number. 3 times 4 gives me 12. Then I add 12 plus my numerator, which is 1. 12 plus 1 gives me 13. And 3 is my denominator. Now, I notice that 8 does not have a denominator, but all whole numbers are actually improper fractions. All whole numbers are over 1. Now, because I'm subtracting fractions, I need to have a common denominator. I know that there is a common multiple of 1 and 3, which is 3. I can multiply 8 over 1 by 3. And I can make it turn into 24 over 3 and fill in the rest. Now I have 24 minus 13, which gives me 11, and my denominator stays the same. Add this up to my negative I have already placed in my answer, and my answer is negative 11 over 3. If I would like to turn this back into a mixed number, I know 2 whole groups of 3 can fit into 11, with 2 left over. Alrighty, number 4. This is an addition problem. I still need to recognize if this is same sign or different sign. They are the same sign, negative 1 3/4 and negative 11 over 12. Because they are same sign, I will do what the sign says in the middle, which is addition. I also recognize that this is a negative plus a negative. When you add a negative plus a negative, your answer will also be negative. So I should put my equal sign and my negative. Next thing I need to do is turn my mixed number into an improper fraction. I turn 1 3/4 into a improper fraction by doing 4 times 1, which gives me 4, 4 plus 3, which gives me 7. 1 3/4 becomes 7 over 4. There is my addition sign because I'm doing what the sign says, and my 11 over 12. Because I am adding fractions, I have to have a common denominator. I need to think of a multiple that 4 and 12 share. 12 is a multiple that 4 and 12 share. I can turn 4 into 12 by multiplying by 3. Because I did the bottom times 3, I also have to do the top by 3. 7 over 4 now turns into 21 over 12. (21) plus 11 gives me 32. And the denominator stays the same. I can put this up at the top, where my answer would be negative 32 over 12. If I would like to turn this back into a mixed number, I know that 2 whole groups of 12 can fit, and I know 8 is left over. Because 8 over 12 can be smaller, it can be simplified by dividing by a common factor. 8 and 12 both can be divided by 4. I can actually rewrite my problem as negative 2 and 2/3. So these are the 3 possible answers for number 4. Number 5. This is an addition problem, so I need to recognize that. Are they different signs or are they the same sign? These are different signs. Because they are different signs, I am going to do the opposite of the sign in the middle. So I am going to subtract in my problem. The next thing I need to look at is my answer going to be positive or negative? I am adding a positive and a negative. Whatever sign is greater, that is going to be the sign of my answer. I do have more negatives than positives in this problem, so my answer should be negative. So here I am writing the rule. When you have a positive plus a negative, the sign is whatever is greater. In a normal subtraction problem, I would put the bigger number on top. I am going to ignore all signs because I have already stated that my answer is going to be negative. On top, I am going to put 5.78, and I'm going to subtract 0.082. I need to recognize that I need to put a 0 on top to fill in that empty space so I can do borrowing correctly. 0 minus 2, I cannot complete, so I must borrow. I cross out the 8, it becomes a 7, and the 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 2 gives me 8. Next, 7 minus 8 cannot be done, so I must borrow. This 7 becomes a 6, and this 7 becomes a 17. 17 minus 8 equals 9. 6 minus 0 is 6. Make sure do not forget your decimal. And 5 minus 0 is 5. I now shall put this up into my answer, which already has my negative sign. And I am done with this problem. Number 6. Because this is an addition problem, I need to recognize, are these same sign or are they different signs? In this problem, they have different signs, negative 13.82 and positive 62.4. Because they have different signs, I am going to do the opposite of what the sign tells me. So because this is an addition problem, I am going to subtract. The next rule I need to decide is, this is a positive plus a negative problem. Remember, the sign of your answer goes with the greater sign in the problem. I have more positives than negatives, so my answer will be positive. So I'm going to put my equal sign, and here is my plus sign to represent a positive answer. Here is the rule, positive plus a negative answer will have sign of greater number. Because I am subtracting, I need to put the greater number on top. 62.4 will go on the top of my problem. Then I am subtracting negative 13.82. And the last step is I need to make sure that I have the same amount of numbers, so I'm going to add a 0 on the end of 62.4. The first step is 0 minus 2 cannot be done, so I will borrow. 4 will turn into a 3. 0 will turn into a 10. 10 minus 2 gives me 8. 3 minus 8 cannot be done. I will borrow from the 2. It makes it a 1. 3 will turn into 13. 13 minus 8 is 5. Do not forget to put your decimal. 1 minus 3 cannot be done. I must borrow from the 6. It turns into a 5. 1 turns into an 11. 11 minus 3 gives me 8. 5 minus 1 is 4. I need to put this up next to my answer because I have put a positive sign. My answer is 48.58. Number 7. This is a subtraction problem. The first thing I need to do is recognize if this is a small minus big or big minus small. 1.324 is smaller than 7. This is a small minus big. I know that small minus big gives me a negative as an answer. So I will put equals negative. The next thing I need to recognize is, are they same signs or are they different? In number 7, they have the same sign. They are both positives. Same sign means I do what the sign says. So same sign, that means I'm going to actually subtract. Because this is a subtraction problem, I need to put the bigger number on top, which is 7. I will then subtract 1.324. Because I need to have the same amount of numbers in both of my numbers, I need to add a decimal after the 7 and fill in with 3 zeros. Zero minus 4 cannot be done. 0 minus 2 cannot be done. And 0 minus 3 cannot be done. I must borrow from the 7 and make it a 6. This 0 will turn into a 10. However, I need to keep going. This 10 will turn into a 9, and this will be a 10. I need to keep going. This 10 turns into a 9 as well, and finally, we have 10 minus 4 on the end. 10 minus 4 gives me 6. 9 minus 2 gives me 7. 9 minus 3 gives me 6. Do not forget to put your decimal. And 6 minus 1 gives me 5. Because I have already put a negative into my answer, my final answer is negative 5.676. Number 8. This is a subtraction problem. I need to realize if these are same sign or different signs. These are both negatives. Because they are same sign, that means I'm going to do what the sign tells me to do in the middle. So I am going to subtract these problems, or these two numbers. Next thing I need to recognize is this a small minus big problem? Or big minus small? Negative 0.23 is closer to 0, so this makes it a bigger number. This makes it a big minus small problem. I know that big minus small problems, they give me positive answers. So I will put my equal sign and my positive. Now I'm going to ignore the signs and set up my subtraction problem. 22.1 is the bigger number when you drop the signs, and I'm going to subtract 0.23. I need to have the same amount of numbers, so I'm going to fill in a 0 behind the 1. 0 minus 3 cannot be done. I must borrow. This 1 turns into a 0. This turns into a 10. 10 minus 3 gives me 7. 0 minus 2 cannot be done. I must borrow from the 2 and the 1's place, and this becomes a 1, and this becomes a 10. 10 minus 2 gives me 8. Don't forget to put your decimal. 1 minus 0 is 1, and 2 minus nothing is 2. Because I have already put a positive sign in my answer, my final answer is positive 21.87.